The Pokemon TCG Pocket competitive metagame is shifting rapidly. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to the channel, little flexers. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video, or if you're new here, welcome for the first time. My name is JW Creewell, aka flexdaddy, and this is the best place to be to learn about Pokemon TCG Pocket and have some fun along the way. Now, the subject of today's video is the competitive Pokemon Pocket metagame. Now, we saw very early on in the tournaments that were being run online, or just in general tier lists, that Pikachu was pretty much at the top of everyone's list. And while that hasn't changed, there's been a newcomer that I really want to talk about. Actually, one of my favorite decks, and admittedly the only high tier deck that I can actually make in the game right now, and that is Mewtwo Gardevoir. Now, Mewtwo Gardevoir has a lot of strengths. Mewtwo being able to one-shot Pikachu while not being one-shot in return. Pikachu capping out at that 90 to 100 damage. Of course, Mewtwo doing 150 turn after turn if you can get a Gardevoir setup. So let's take a look at some of these lists. There have been 3 recent tournaments on limitless.com. If you go over to play.limitlesstcg.com, you can find these tournaments. The 3 most recent tournaments with over 100 players have all been won by Mewtwo. We take a look here at the Redacted Crown number 6 tournament held last week. Mewtwo, both taking up these top 2 slots. Take a look at a sample list, and it's pretty straightforward. I mean, the core is always going to remain the same: 2 Ralts, 2 Kirlia, 2 Gardevoir, 2 Mewtwo. I like this list overall. It's pretty straightforward, consistent. The one thing that throws me for a loop a little bit, though, is the Kangaskhan. I can't help but feel that some of the other one prize attackers are a little bit better. So the options that you have here instead of the Kangaskhan would be Meowth, and you'd also have the Jinx, and you'd also have the non-EX Mewtwo. I think those are all really good options for the Gardevoir deck, so I'm surprised that this player didn't opt to include them. Did, however, go for a red card. I love red card in Mewtwo specifically because Mewtwo is one of those decks that you really need that extra turn or 2 to ensure that you can get your Gardevoir set up. Red card allows you those extra turns in either the mirror or against Charizard or against Venusaur. Any of those other setup decks that you would expect to face, red card is pivotal for swinging those early in your favor. The second tournament we're going to look at is the Pikaverse Pocket Cup, $100 prize pool. Not too shabby. One here you see Mewtwo EX, another one in the top 8, and yet another one rounding out. So 3 in the top 8. Still pretty dominated by the Pikachu deck, but if we scroll down just slightly, you'll see the top 16 is just littered with the Mewtwo EX deck. And if we come over to the metagame, I actually find this pretty interesting. Mewtwo having the most play of any of the archetypes, and also a pretty good win percentage as well. So nothing to scoff at here. Let's go on to that deck list. We take a look at the winning list from Rinlick. Open that as an image, and yeah, we do see there, from what I saw from that first list to the second list, not a whole lot changes. I mean, we're only dealing with 20 cards here, but they do include this Mewtwo. Now, the Mewtwo, 120 damage for 4 energy. That's a pretty big investment, but you are able to one-hit KO a Pikachu EX, and that's very relevant because if you can force that one prize knockout, then you are probably winning the prize exchange when you can come up with a Mewtwo EX in behind that. So I like this list overall. Giovanni is also a card that I like in my Mewtwo list. It allows you to hit 60 damage with the Mewtwo EX. Allows you to hit 160 if you're facing off against like an Executor or something like that. I do really appreciate the Giovanni inclusion here, and this is another solid list overall. Looking at the most recent Pocket tournament, this is the Mach Punch number 1 with a whopping $10 prize pool. I know, pretty crazy. Got a lot on the line. This had about 190 players playing in the tournament, and as you can see, dominated by Mewtwo. 12th through 9th, all Mewtwo, 6-5, 4, and the first place finisher with Mewtwo. Pretty impressive for a deck that, again, towards the start of competitive Pocket was definitely a higher tier deck, but maybe hasn't seen as much dominance. I see Mewtwo kind of gradually creeping up in the amount of play, not only the amount of play, but also the higher placements, because I do think it's a deck that just has very wide matchup spreads. Dark is not a very viable type right now. I could argue that Fighting is a much better typing to have than Dark at this point in time, just simply because Fighting can actually one-hit KO opponent's Pokemon if you're playing the Marowak, and we do see this third place finisher playing the Marowak EX in their deck. I think that we are going to continue to see this upward trend from the Mewtwo Gardevoir deck. Let's take a look at this list from Speed Lemon, also including the Mewtwo. So now, like, I'm seeing all these lists with the Mewtwo, and it just kind of makes me think, like, maybe I need to try that out myself. I don't know. Leave me a comment down below on whether you like the Kangaskhan, whether you like the Meowth, whether you like the Jinx. I'm actually a big Jinx fan. I think the Jinx is really good, especially against like Articuno decks. And then we have this Mewtwo. The problem with Mewtwo being 4 energy to attack is that you're going to need multiple energy attachments from the bench. It's not realistic to get 2 Gardevoir up, and so you're going to have to manually attach to it a few times before you can realistically get a Power Blast off. But maybe you trade that off because the Mewtwo has, relatively high HP. I mean, 120, so you could just leave that meat wall up in the active and your opponent can't knock it out. I'm gonna have to play around with this a little bit more, but that seems to be the trend in these lists right now, is to include more of the non-EX Mewtwo. We see here the list contains 1 Sabrina, 2 Giovanni of note. We talked about that in the last list. I do like that for the Mewtwo to be able to, a couple of manual attachments, you can knock out those 60 HP Pokemon with the Giovanni. That is very nice. Of course, the 2x speed is going to be crucial for you, and a red card and a singular potion. So that kind of rounds it out. We're seeing, again, the last 3 major tournaments, which I qualify as having over 100 players, were all won by Mewtwo. So does that signify a meta trend? I think so. We should continue to see Mewtwo not only be some of the most played decks in the game right now, but also the highest placing decks. I think it's a really good deck, and it has really good matchup spreads right now. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below. If you like this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you'd like more Pocket content. But that's going to do it for me today, guys. God bless. If I don't see you soon, I'll see you later. And remember, good luck, and also have fun.